Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Welcome to Talking Politics. I am your host, Robert Press. I write for the Bronx Chronicle, as you can see by my official New York City press card. I also contribute to the Co-op City News and Parkchester Times. The latter, like this show, is part of Muslim Media. I also have a blog at www.100percentbronx.blogspot.com. That's 100%bronx.blogspot.com, and Facebook pages 100% and What is Going On in Your Community Board. The views expressed here on this show are those of the host, any guest, or any commentator whose comments you may see scroll across the bottom of the screen here, and are not necessarily those of Muslim Media. My special guest today is Sheikh Musa Drama, who will be on later with his proposal for peace in the Gaza section of the Middle East. And that'll be in the second half of the show. So let's go on to the weather forecast. Today it is sunny outside, as I can see through the windows in my studio, and it should get up to about 45 today. Tomorrow, 55 with a chance of rain. Sunday it should get up to about 57, and Monday 58 with the high 50s the rest of the next week. Let's go to some politics. In Tuesday's Michigan primary, on the Republican side, it was Donald Trump getting 68%, or 758,892 votes, to Nikki Haley getting 27%, or 296,328 votes. There were 3% uncommitted and 2% for others that were write-ins. On the Democratic side, President Joe Biden, the incumbent, got 81%, or 623,415 votes. Uncommitted got 13%, or 101,436 votes. Candidates Williamson and Phillips each got 3% of the vote. It is said that the high amount of uncommitted votes on the Democratic side was that because it was the anti-Joe Biden Middle East policy. As far as that goes, it was over 1 million Republican voters compared to about 750,000 Democratic voters. The Supreme Court Wednesday agreed to decide whether former President Donald Trump can be prosecuted on charges he interfered with the 2020 election, calling into question whether his case could go to trial before the November election. However, a New York appellate judge refused to halt the collection of Donald Trump's $454 million civil fraud penalty while he appeals, rejecting the former president's request that he be allowed to post a bond covering just a fraction of what he owes. In the U.S. Senate, Mitch McConnell, the longest-serving U.S. Senate leader in history, who maintained his power in the Republican Party for almost 2 decades, has decided that he will step down from his position in November. Last year, there were whispers that Congressman Gerald Nadler of Manhattan might be coming to an end, retiring, but the 76-year-old says that he plans to run for re-election and quite possibly can see himself in office for another 10 years. Now, the multi-year battle to draw New York's 26 congressional boundaries for the remainder of the decade may have concluded, with Democrats positioning themselves to pick up at least one additional seat in the House. The state legislature wound down the 2024 edition of the redistricting saga Wednesday after Governor Kathy Hochul signed a message of necessity, allowing the legislature to bypass the 3-day aging requirements of the bill. So that afternoon, the state assembly approved it by a vote of 115 to 33. The Senate approved it 45 to 17, and Governor Hochul later signed the new maps into law. As for Co-op City, it was a decision of whether AOC would be keeping Co-op City, whether Richie Torres might pick it up, or Fireman Jamal Bowman. And it seems that Fireman Jamal Bowman will be representing Co-op City once again. He will be losing most of the current Wakefield area he has to Richie Torres, and Congressman Torres will be losing some of the South Bronx to Congresswoman Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez. So they're just moving the players around a little. They're positioning from first base to second base to third base, and shortstop to third base to shortstop. Yeah, if you can pick up the infield lingo I just mentioned. And petitioning has already begun as of the February 29th. So if you saw anybody petitioning before February 29th, it was illegal. Now, if you go to Family Dollar, you have no problems here up in the Northeast. However, Family Dollar Stores LLC pleaded guilty on Monday to holding food, drugs, medical devices, and cosmetics under unsanitary conditions related to a rodent infestation at the company's West Memphis, Arkansas distribution center. They are paying a fine of $41.675 million, the largest ever criminal penalty in a food safety case. The plea agreement also requires Family Dollar and Dollar Tree to meet robust corporate compliance and reporting requirements for the next 3 years. In pleading guilty, the company admitted that its Arkansas distribution center shipped FDA-regulated products to more than 400 Family Dollar stores in Alabama, Missouri, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Tennessee, according to the plea agreement. The company began receiving reports in August of 2020 of mouse and pest issues with deliveries to the stores. By the end of 2020, certain stores reported receiving rodents and rodent damage products from the warehouse. The company admitted that by no later than January of 2021, some of its employees were aware of the problem in the warehouse, and that on February 18th of 2022, the company voluntarily recalled all drugs, medical devices, cosmetics, human and animal food products sold since January 2021 in the 404 stores that had been serviced by the warehouse. Again, this warehouse served the states of Alabama, Missouri, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, and Texas, not New York State. Okay, this item comes from from the online newspaper, The City, as FBI agents raided 2 Bronx homes owned by a top aide to Mayor Eric Adams early Thursday morning. Gee, where have we heard that before? Along with the offices of a Queens mall that hosted Adams' campaign operations. The aide, Adams' director of Asian Affairs, Winnie Greco, was deeply involved in 8 separate fundraising events in the New World Mall that generated tens of thousands of dollars for Adams' 2021 mayoral election. The Bronx raids began about 6 a.m. When FBI agents acting in conjunction with Brooklyn U.S. Attorney's Office swooped down on 2 homes owned by Greco on Gillespie Avenue in the Pelham Bay section of the Bronx, sealing off intersections. There were more than a dozen FBI officials ready to enter the home. They had all the roads closed off, every intersection. It was frozen for a bit. Nobody was allowed to leave, one resident said. The FBI agents loaded materials from Greco's home into the back of a truck, and they later confirmed to the newspaper The City that the sprawling New World Mall in Flushing as the third site of a third raid. Greco is on leave from her job. The mayor's press office announced Thursday Greco is the 3rd person associated with Adams whose home was raided by federal officials in the past 4 months. In November, the FBI raided the homes of Brianna Suggs, then Adams' chief fundraiser, and Rana Abbasova, an aide in Adams' internal affairs office. An Adams spokesman said Thursday in a statement about the raid, our administration will always follow the law, and we will always expect our employees to adhere to the strictest ethical guidelines. As we have repeatedly said, we don't comment on matters under review, but will firmly cooperate with any review underway. The mayor has not been accused of any wrongdoing. Greco, who was paid $100,000 a year for his city hall job, is already being probed by the Department of Investigation in the aftermath of another story by the city detailing allegations of ethical improprieties against her. When asked by the city about Greco in November, Adams said he has a hands-off policy when things are being reviewed. However, Greco still appeared with him at public events, including Times Square on New Year's Eve for the ball drop, at a women's-focused event later in January, but Greco was conspicuously absent or played a much smaller role than usual in Adams' Lunar New Year celebrations. Mayor Adams is trying to cut back the city sanctuary rules. However, he says that under the 2014 laws and 2017 laws passed by the city council, the city can't comply with requests from ICE to turn over migrants to their custody, except in a limited number of circumstances. He said he wants the city sanctuary policies reverted back to a similar executive order first enacted by Mayor Ed Koch in 1989, which then continued under his predecessors. That particular executive order, city's first sanctuary policy, barred city agencies and government workers from sharing information about immigration status with federal authorities unless the individual was suspected of committing a crime. A conviction, even being charged, was not necessarily a prerequisite for that collaboration to take place. Adams had previously pointed to the city council when talking about modifying sanctuary laws, saying that such a change would have to go through that legislative body. When asked about the city council, if it had any intentions to alter the city sanctuary status in early February, Speaker Adams, Adrian Adams, that is, firmly shot down the possibility, saying that to re-examine the protections given to migrants or immigrants or people, these policies foster trust and cooperation between the immigrant communities and local authorities, which is critical to public safety. However, when it comes to the migrant situation, in a report released Tuesday analyzing the city's major emergency staffing contracts for asylum seekers services, New York City Controller Brad Lander revealed the lack of coordination by City Hall, which likely led that the city was paying for-profit companies millions of dollars more than necessary. The Controller's office analyzed the top 4 emergency staffing contracts entered into by city agencies to staff facilities for asylum seekers. The report found drastic discrepancies in the pricing of equivalent services. In one comparison, the comparison for a comparable position ranged from $58 to $201 per hour for contracts. Yes, Kevin, I understand that those FBI raids are probably around the corner from you. So you probably couldn't get your bicycle out and go riding, from what we understand. Let me continue, though, here. The Controller's analysis compared, like I said, the 4 highest cost energy emergency contracts. They were by the SE Group, LLC, which is done by the Department of Homeless Services, SLSCO LP, which is the New York City Emergency Management Corporation, Rapid Reliable Testing LLC, also known as DocGoes, which is by the Department of Housing and Preservation and Development, and Garnier Environmental Services, which is the Department of Citywide Administrative Services, which has a master agreement involving the New York City Emergency Management and the Health and Hospitals Corporation. The latter 3 contracts were selected without competitive bidding. In addition, the report found no evidence City Hall coordinated to insist on receiving the most competitive pricing or evaluate and monitor services across the contract. The report analyzed the prices paid for the staffing positions across the 4 contracts and found the difference of anywhere from on-site leadership costing $68.69 to $139.22. Case management positions range from $51.23 to $121.88. General support, $46.11 to $91.41. Security guards range from $50 to $117.25. This is the hourly rate wage. And on-site management from $57.79 to $201.06. As of November 2023, though, the Controller's Office has identified 340 unique asylum seeker contracts held across 14 different city agencies, representing an estimated contract value of $5.7 billion. In early December, the Controller revoked the mayor's blanket authority, which was granted in July of 2022, to issue emergency contracts for asylum seeker services, requiring agencies to obtain prior approval before getting the Controller's approval on these new contracts. Now, before I go to a break, last night there was a meeting at the Van Ness Neighborhood Association, which introduced 3 projects associated with the Metro North stations that will be there at the Van Ness Parkchester station. There is a Baker Avenue project, which is proposing to change the zoning which is from R5, which means that the building can go no higher than 55 feet. They want to change it to an R6A, 95 feet, or an R61C2-4, 125 feet, which would allow 398 residential units and almost 25,000 square feet of commercial property, of which 110 inclusionary housing units, which was unexplained of what those are, just that they would be, their rents would be frozen for 30 years, which was described as lifetime of the rental unit. Now, 1601 Bronxdale Avenue, there's changing the zoning from M11, which means it can only be a one-story building, to an M11A/R7-3, of which 185 feet the building can go, which would include 2,083 residential units, 522 inclusionary housing units, 120,000 square feet of community facility, 32,000 feet of commercial, and they're talking also about 224,000 square feet of industrial space. Then the other site is on East Tremont Avenue between...
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted, and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platforms with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your product and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the websites they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our news site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep. New York Parrot is born to prosperously speak tomorrow for the voiceless.
Okay, I see my guest here, but let me finish with the third building. It's in Parkchester on Tremont Avenue between White Plains Road and Unionport Road. It's an empty lot. They want to put a building 175 feet with 424 residential units. All told, this is 3,000 units that will be built by the Parkchester Van Ness site. There is plans for a 250-foot building at the Morris Park site in the parking lot of Jacoby Hospital. So let me get on to my guest, Mr. Sheikh Musa Drama. He has a roadmap to ceasefire, facilitating dialogue between Muslims and Israel. And as we know, Sheikh, yesterday there was a incident in Gaza where at least 104 people were killed, it said, and more than 750 others wounded in the latest conflict in the Gaza Strip. I know you have worked with Rabbi Kaplan, Bob Kaplan, and you are promoting equality between everybody. So, Sheikh Musa, will you please tell us your guideline, your roadmap to ceasefire in the Gaza Strip?
Yes, thank you, Bob, for inviting me, and thank you for hosting this powerful show. And I would like to begin by expressing my, happy Women's Day, happy Women's History Month. Today is March 4th, and we certainly will be celebrating women in our lives. So coming back to the topic at hand, the Holy Land is a land that we are all connected to. It is perhaps the only land that is not foreign or disconnected to any one of us, regardless of our backgrounds or where we live. And it is the holiest or one of the holiest land, and it is one of the most, important and valuable piece of real estate. And it is, a place occupied by cousins who do not always see eye to eye, and to a point where, death and destruction, become a normalized, unfortunately, occurrence on the Holy Land. So, a month after October 7th terrorism, I was blessed, to grace, the Holy Land, with my presence along with my wife and many other political and religious leaders, really on a mission to be on the ground, to talk to the victims and to see what happened, and so that, we can have informed positions on what has been happening. And I firmly believe that unless one has that opportunity, one may not be having full understanding of what's at stake. Now, a couple of days ago, because of the heightened, difficulties that continue to prevail, I decided that based on my, experience and my recent trip, let me put together some points that may be, debatable or agreeable or disagreeable, but at least, from my perspective. And the points were the Muslim, yes, thank you. The Muslim world collectively has not come out and condemn October 7th. Now, some leaders are doing it, haphazardly, but the Muslim world, in the name of Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, must come and sign a unified letter saying the entire Muslim world, condemn what happened on October 7th without any question, without any ambiguity. That's the first thing. Number two, the Muslim world has not come out on the same vein to send unified condolences to the victims of October 7th. And I believe that, with what happened on October 7th, the worst terrorism since the Holocaust on the Jewish people, the Muslim world should be the first group to send condolences. And the third thing also is that, there is no way that Israel, as we know what's at stake, will agree to a ceasefire unless the release of the hostages. These are innocent Israelis. A lot of them are not military. Some of them are not, have dual citizenship. Some of them are even American citizens. And for us now to demand immediate ceasefire without the release of hostages, only people who don't know what's at stake will call it. Now, I as a Muslim, I as a human being, wouldn't want a continuation of any, conflict, whether it is on Gaza or anywhere else. And it pains me, so deeply to see the death and destruction befall on Gaza, and the number that is being announced as the number of casualties. Nobody with the right frame of mind would want that to continue any second. It must cease immediately without any, doubt about it. However, as I said, there are steps toward achieving it, and those steps must come from the Muslim world so that the Israeli government will know that they have partners in peace. They have partners, in mourning, and they have partners in the concern that the Israelis, are expressing in terms of, the hostages. And I believe this is maybe the first time where hostages are not given, the ability to see Red Cross and, others. So none of us know the conditions of the hostages, and therefore I believe that it is prudent, for the Muslim world, for the Muslim leadership to really show leadership, saying that, Israel is a cousin to the Muslim world, and therefore when Israel suffer, we all suffer, and we will be the first, to send condolences. We will be the first to condemn what happened October 7th, and we will be the first to isolate ourselves from violent extremism within, the Palestinian factions. The Palestinian cause is legitimate, is noble, and is universal. And all of us, Muslims and Jews and non-Muslims, have been advocating for a peaceful solution. However, You cannot just say ceasefire now without these steps that I enumerated, above. So that is, Bob, my position on it, and then, we can continue on this conversation.
Well, it said that there are still 100 hostages being held, that the Israeli forces said that they will not stop until all these hostages are released or found. And as far as the fighting goes, more than 1,200 people were killed in Israel during the attack on October 7th. But it's estimated that 10,000 Hamas fighters have been killed since then, 30,000 people in the Gaza area, and 70,000 have been injured. Now, how many Hamas fighters are there? Do you know?
One of the famous American journalists once said, the first casualties of conflict is truth. The fact of the matter is, we rarely get the truth, from the Holy Land conflict, because unfortunately, in almost all cases, we are in our own cocoons and echo chambers. So we are viewing videos that speak to our positions and sharing our views. So now I have not seen a single report that identified the exact number of Hamas fighters and Hamas deaths. I have not. And all the casualties that we're hearing, according to published reports, are coming, from Gaza-run Palestinian Health Authority. And so whatever that number is, women number and children number and Hamas fighters, I don't think there has been an accurate description yet, to say it. But nonetheless, I don't care what number it is. The number should never ever happen, and it should stop now. But the Muslim world must take the first preliminary steps that I enumerated early on.
Now, you're the chairman of the Islamic Cultural Center here in the Bronx. What does the local Bronx Islamic community think of what's going on in Gaza?
That's a very good question. The Palestinian issue is an issue that is near and dear to the hearts of Muslims, a lot of Jewish people, and a lot of young people, a lot of university students, and many scholars. And this is a global outcry for the freedom and liberation and independence of Palestine and Palestinians. Therefore, anytime there's a conflict, majority of so-called pro-Palestinians will not differentiate who are the factions. As long as Israel is fighting any faction within the Palestinian groups, people will rally and attack Israel, because universally, Israel now has been deemed as the aggressor, as the occupier, and all the other, attributes that are very damaging to Israel. Therefore, the local Muslims and a lot of Bronxites, a lot of liberals, far left, they are mobilizing, they are rallying, they're even advocating continued boycotts, and some of them advocate violence and a lot of stuff. So, it is a very, very hectic moment we are in, and it should never ever happen again, and we should never normalize it. I think a democratic nation, and civilized people should be able to find peaceful ways of channeling their differences. We can debate, but advocating violence or anti-Semitism or anti-Palestinians will only further, the suffering and adding fuel to the already burning fire. So, the Bronxites, Muslims and non-Muslims, my advice is that, number one, read my, op-ed piece, and this way you will be enlightened as to what is at stake. And number two, be fair. Be fair, because anti-Semitism should never, ever be allowed under any circumstances by any subterfuges, used. So we should do what we're doing, promoting peace, promoting understanding, and if you have the chance, travel to the Holy Land and see for yourself. There are a lot on the ground that people who have not been there do not know. As a matter of fact, there are so many Arabs and Palestinians who are so close to Israelis and even Israeli government. Number one. Number two, the groups that we normally don't talk about are the Arab Israeli citizens who are voters, who are now sending legislators to Knesset and who are working and who have their passports and their dignities, their freedoms now, they also suffer, but not to the extent of, some of the like people in West Bank and Gaza, whatever. But these Arab Israelis, if we talk to them, then we will have a better understanding of how we can be helpful to the situation.
I have one final question for you. Our commentators have said, why isn't the UN doing anything? They're condemning Israel for these, raids on Gaza, trying to get back the hostages. Why don't we see UN peacekeepers there? Why aren't they separating the Hamas and Israel? And why is the UN doing more to help the people in Gaza? I know you may not be able to answer that, but try.
No. UN is perhaps one of the best innovation after World War II. And UN has done tremendous job in terms of, providing education, health, and, peaceful, military consultancies and so many things. However, UN is a handicapped international body that is controlled by the 5 permanent members who are only there for their selfish interests. And because of that, Israel, because UN has more members.
I see we lost our sound. We're at the end of our show. Can we get Sheikh Musa back? Nope, we've lost his sound. So let me just say that was my final question to him. Unfortunately, we can't hear him. So I'm going to sign off right now and say thank you for watching. Hopefully we can have Sheikh Musa on again on a future show, and we can have a better connection. Unfortunately, like I said, his sound is not there. So let me just say thank you for watching. I will be continuing to cover this. I will continue to cover the new Metro North stations. And I want to thank my viewers for watching. And there is a Metro Community Board 11 is having a public hearing on the Metro North stations on March 25th. That's Monday, March 25th. The site will be the Community Board office, unless it's determined that they can find a larger site that they need. So thank you for watching the show tonight. I want to thank Sheikh Musa Drummer for coming on. Sheikh Musa is Muslim Media. He owns Muslim Media, or part owner of Muslim Media. And I want to thank him for coming on the show and explaining his roadmap to peace in the Gaza Strip. Thank you.